All right, welcome back to Writing Workshop. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, which means it's April Fool's. But no joke, today we are going to be working on writing a flash draft for your All About research report. And this flash draft is going to zero in on a topic within the Westward Expansion time period. So I know you've been researching just like me and doing this work, so I'm excited for you to get started on that. So let me just set you up for some success today. This is what you're going to need to do. First of all, is you got to get your tools ready. The information writing checklist and the writers of informational texts. The technique and goal cards, you guys should be familiar with this. These are two tools that I know when I go to write this kind of thing, I want to have handy. So they're included in the assignment. You're going to use that outline that you created to guide your writing. And you should have a few different subsections to teach your readers about your topic. When you go to flash draft, you got to write furiously. You got to get out the information. Don't worry about spelling, grammar. You can do that later. Just get it out. But you do want to keep your notes handy so that you can refer back to them as you write, because this is an informational piece and those key details are going to help you to write accurately and to teach accurately. Your readers. Finally, at the end, you're going to definitely go back and reread what you wrote. You got to check that it makes sense, and you're going to use your information writing checklist to see where to go next. All right, let's get started. So this is a copy of the information writing checklist here, and there are some things that may look familiar. Some of you, it's been a little while since we looked at this, but I just want to go over it really quickly with you. So first of all, we have the lead, we have some transitions and endings, some stuff to make sure that you're paying attention to do as you write. So in the introduction, you're going to want to make sure that you hook the reader, right? You got to set up your subtopics, get them interested in what you're going to be writing about. When you go to your different subtopics, you're going to want to be writing about results. You have to be write about what resulted from an action or an inaction when you go do that work. And then in the ending, you got to write a conclusion, right? It has to restate some points that you made and leave the reader thinking of something like a final thought. On the structure side, in development, we have organization, we have elaboration. Organization, this is key to informational writing pieces. So you got to organize your writing. It has to be separated into sections. Use headings and subheadings, just like you would in a nonfiction book. Headings and subheadings are your friend. You want to make sure that you write each section according to a plan, right? You planned it out by section, you're going to write it out just like that. When you go to elaborate, you have to explain the different aspects of the subject. You have to include things like dates, quotes, details, and that helps to round out what you're talking about and really teach well. And then you got to make sure to use trusted sources. So just get anything off of Google. We've put together some sources for you that are really good, that are going to help you. And then you got to make sure to give credit. And then if you don't know about something, you need to maybe research a little bit deeper so you can include some details. All right, let's get started. The next thing is you're going to need some tools here. You got to have your goal cards, right? Some things you know are part of goals, right? Hooking the reader, giving background information, teaching technical vocabulary and concepts. Those are very, very important things that you do when you go to write nonfiction informational pieces. How do you do that? You use techniques. So you could make a comparison. If, let's say, you are trying to hook the reader, you could maybe give an example or an anecdote, like a little story, to maybe explain how a relationship between one thing connects to another, right? You could do that. You could quote an authority. Let's say if you are trying to help maybe suggest the significance of a point or an idea, right? An authority is definitely going to help to show that. All right, the goals are going to lead you to techniques. Keep these handy because they can help you when you go to write. All right. This was the outline that I came up with in our last writing session. So basically, I kind of have three sections here. The consequences of the Trail of Tears, I said I wanted to talk about that first because I really wanted to hook people in to my writing. I want to talk about what led up to the Trail of Tears, and then I wanted to talk about the Trail of Tears itself and what happened along the way, kind of like the different steps of it. I know, because I did some additional reading yesterday, that I definitely want to talk about this Indian Removal Act all by itself. So I might make that its own separate section, and we'll see how it goes as I get to writing this. All right. This is the thing I have to make sure I have handy. These were the notes that I came up with from the read-alouds that we had done. And you'll notice up here, I've also jotted down what the sources were. And that's going to be really important, because at the end of your piece, you definitely want to include a bibliography page, basically a page that says, hey, this is where all the information I got it from. And these are two really good resources, Cobblestone Magazine and Brain Pop. I'm using really good sources. But I'm keeping an eye on where I got this information from, because that's very important. All right, let's get writing. So, the first thing I was going to talk about is the consequences of the Trail of Tears. I thought about the various aspects of the Trails of Tears, and this is what I came up with. Death from starvation, exposure, and diseases like smallpox and pneumonia. If you survived, you now lived in a land that was very far from your home. This was the reality that over 60,000 Native Americans faced when they were forced to leave their lands, mostly on foot. They marched from the southeastern part of the United States to the territories west of the Mississippi River, along what would later be called the Trail of Tears, from the 1830s to 1842. Boom, I've used my notes to help me talk about that, and I feel like I have really tried to hook my reader in, talking about these really severe consequences there. I'm done with that section. I can move on to the next one. But I want to make sure I'm keeping track of my outline, right? What am I going to write about next? I did the consequences of the Trail of Tears. I want to now talk about what led up to the Trail of Tears in my next section. So I'm going to talk about settlers taking the land, disease killing the Native Americans. What else did I have here for this important information? What led up to here? Oh, I want to talk about maybe the Native Americans taking on the white customs. That could be really important. All right, let's go. Here's my heading. What led up to the Trail of Tears? So, the suffering of Native Americans didn't begin with the Trail of Tears. White settlers had been pushing Native people off the land for a long time, especially after the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. The settlers didn't feel like they had enough. They still wanted more land. Some of the Native Americans, the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole, the 5, quote, civilized tribes, tried to fit in with the settlers. They wore the same clothes and had some of the same customs as they did. But when gold was found on Cherokee land, the settlers got their government to pass a law that would push the people of the 5 tribes off the eastern United States for good. So I definitely mentioned a lot of information from my notes. Louisiana Purchase, I talked about the 5 civilized tribes, and I named them. I also included some very important information about the reasons, right? Why they were eventually pushed off their land. This idea about the gold that was mentioned in both the video and the article, that the kind of final straw was the gold that the settlers wanted. As you go through here, your next step is going to be to reread and make some revision work that as you go, and then kind of make a plan for what you think you'd like to do next. Like I said, I already have 3 or 4 places where I think I need to do a little more research for this work. All right, so just to review, one last thing before you go. Let's go back up to the top. This is what you are going to do. You have got to get those tools ready. You have to have your information writing checklist and those goal and technique cards there. That's going to help you to do this work. I want you to make sure you have that outline as your guide to your writing. Make sure you have that out because it's going to help you. You saw how it helped me. And then when you go to flash draft, you got to get it out. Write furiously. Give yourself a good 25, 30 minutes to just get it out. Don't worry about spelling, punctuation, grammar. That can all come later. Just get out your flash draft. I know we're doing all this work on Google Classroom, but I would encourage you to think about writing in your notebook. Don't try and figure out how to type, this out. If you're not a fast typer, you might have more success. Most of you will have more success of writing it out by hand first and then typing it up. I would recommend that because for most of you, you probably write faster than you type. And at the end, of course, it's very important to reread what you wrote, check if it makes sense, and then use the information writing checklist. And you're going to see, what do I have to do next? What revisions do I need to make? All right, that's all for me. Good luck and happy writing.